Hey Jimmy, we're back, and in today's great episode of It's Not Broken, let's try and fix it anyway. I'm going to try and modify something that doesn't need modifying, but I'm going to do it for the hell of it anyway. So it's over to our Zero FXS today, and today's mission is... These are great bikes. Focus, you fuck. These are great bikes, and I do like them, but this mudguard is extremely high, which causes all the crud. If you live in the UK like me, it causes all the crud just to flick up under the bike. And I've got my sound system speaker there. It's the only place you can mount it on this bike. There's nowhere else to put it. What I'm going to attempt to do is just get a standard aftermarket mudguard off a different bike. The one I've chosen off the internet is a Yamaha MT125. Make some brackets up. Mount the mudguard lower so it'll be more tyre hugging. I don't use this bike for off-road. They're not off-road tyres anyway on this thing. So it's just used for urban. And in the UK, the weather's pretty bad most of the time. So it's just bad wet weather a lot of the time. So what I'm planning on doing is, I've got the mudguard there. I'll show it in a minute. But it doesn't obviously line up with them. If you live in somewhere else, you may be able to get like a Zero S or something similar, which will fit straight onto those brackets, I think. I imagine so. But I've looked on the internet and there's no way of sourcing. If I could sort just the mudguard, I'd just go with that, to be honest with you, and just that'd be done. And then later on in the future, what I'm thinking of doing is getting rid of this. These bikes, the headlights are next to naff. They do work, don't get me wrong. They serve their purpose, but they're not great. People say about putting back LED headlamps upgrades in them, but I think you've got to modify the back of the headlight housing to suit. But what I'm planning on doing, I don't know, it's a long shot, is just going to go for a 7-inch LED headlight and just modify that and shove that there. So that's a future plan. But today's episode is going to be going ahead to make some brackets up for our mudguard, which is this one. So this is the mudguard in question I've chosen. I just went for this because it was cheap as well. I didn't realise it was a new one. It's just a copy aftermarket, I suppose. So yeah, these bracket holes obviously don't line up with what's existing. I was going to lob this part off where I marked it, but I think I'm going to keep it now for the time being because these cables need to be retained. So I might use the back side of that to mount the clamp to hold the pipework. So what I'm going to do, I've gone ahead, I've just made a little cardboard template which I think is going to go on there. Let's move this out of the way. So what I'm planning on doing is, that's my template, which is going to be bolted to this. I'm going to cut this out of steel. Then I'm going to try and put like a kick in it, a double kick, and set it so the plate sort of sits about there, I think. Will be just it's all guesstimate, all this. So it doesn't flare out too much. It fits quite well on the bike, actually. I'm quite happy with that. So I might put like a little double kick in this to bring it there. Then I can bolt this back to its original fixings. And then I can mark up the two holes and nut and bolt the aftermarket mudguard onto our plate. Now my plate I've got some stainless steel plate here on the bench. So I'm hoping to do then template 1, mark that, cut it. I've got some bending things I use when I was doing my car restoration. I still am using the car restoration. These create angles in the plate. So I'm hoping to create some kind of bend in the plate. So let's get on and cut this out, and then I'll see if I can get it in the vise, and we'll see if we can put some bends in it. Let's get to it. Okay, Mark, so what we went ahead and did was, I had this piece of stainless steel. It's actually that way, but it doesn't really matter, I suppose. So the jigsaw, it just burnt all the teeth off it. It didn't stand a chance with the jigsaw. So I got the old trusty grinder out. I've cut that out now. So template, well, this will be the plate, the adapter plate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roughly size that up there. I mean, I could just bolt that on there like that and then mark the mudguard mountings and drill and bolt it. It's quite thick plate, and also I'm going to try and put a double kick in it as well, which should make it super rigid then. So hopefully, I mean, these mudguards are quite flexible, the originals. I've got this vice mounted bending plate. It only Only does like 6-inch piece, but it's good enough. So what you do, you draw the line, slide it into where you want the bend, and depending on how much you crank the vise shut, you will get a bend. That's its job in life. Bending. Right, so let's I'm gonna go ahead and mark it and attempt to put a couple of bends in it, and then we'll come back and see how we're doing. All right, Max? This stainless steel's malarkey's bloody hard stuff. I had to use like a lever bar on the vise to bend this stuff. It's not very thick, but so that's my finished result. So hopefully it shouldn't rust, being stainless steel. Bloody tough stuff this. I've still got to drill it yet. Hopefully it'll be drilling. Drilling will be a lot easier. So let's have a look. It's pretty much equal, the overlap. So I've probably gone in about 5mm. It's probably like a 5mm gap step. I mean, it may not be necessary to go to this extreme, to be honest, but so what will happen, I need to work out the height of it. Like I said, if I've got some overlap, I've already got a hole on there. I could use that as one of the fixings actually if I really wanted to. Tell you what I'm going to do so you can have a look what I'm actually trying to do, what I'm trying to achieve here. I've got the mudguard here. So as with the original protectors that go on these, because these are upside down forks on these motorbikes. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. I think that looks, I don't know, what do you think? I know these are meant to be like trials bikes, but that's what I'm trying to achieve, to be honest. Something like that. I was going to cut this back bit off. I am going to cut some of it down because I think it's going to fail with the caliper. But what I'm going to do, I think, is use... because at the moment there's a fixing clip on this original support protector. So I might just keep some of that there and unclip the protector off here and just screw it onto there somehow. Anyway, what I need to do at this stage, so this fits really well on this bike actually. I mean, it's probably motorbikes are standard with the forks and gaps and everything. So I just need to decide on the height. So the original fixing would have been there, but I think that might be too close to the wheel, and also the back sticking up a bit. I'd like to sort of get it more sort of evenly spaced going around the wheel. I may even have to get a mudguard extender. This all fits really well in here between the forks as well. So I'm hoping once this is all, I'm going to probably use some substantial size nuts and bolts on this. I think this is what I'm going to end up with as a spacing around the wheel. It looks pretty even. That's my plate there. I'm going to obviously have to cut the plate down a bit, I think, but that's the finished part, I think, where it's going to end up, living. So that's going to be my fixings. I've gone ahead and just as a temporary measure, I've drilled out my plate, got the fixings lined up. That's rigid. I'm obviously going to have to, I've just quickly marked around plastic bracket support, so I might trim this bit down here to make it look tidy. This obviously sits higher than that bolt, but it's not going to be an issue. Then I've got to find some way to cut this so it looks okay. I'm going to figure out how to cut this so it look nice, and then we can go ahead and start marking up the fixing holes. And I think before I do that, once I get this plate as I want it cut, I might make a second one for the opposite side. Strong stuff, this stainless steel. It's a pig to work with actually. But yeah, I'm happy with that, and that's going to sit nice on the wheel. So see you in a mojo. Well, Jimmy, I've gone ahead and cut the plate to suit. I've basically followed the profile of the part, but it's lower down, so it's going to sort of hopefully follow the same pattern. I went ahead and made a second one, and I've mounted that on the other side. Now all I've gone and done is brought this mudguard down in position, and I've just literally marked the two holes with a pen. So what I might do now is I might just take that off, drill these holes out, and I'll probably mirror the same thing on the other side again. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these out now, and let's come back and see. I was going to try and weld some bolts on the back of this plate, but I think I'm just going to nut and bolt it straight through, because I think if I start welding it, then it's going to be prone to rust, I think, with the welds. So I'm going to keep it as corrosion proof as possible. That's it looking from the front. Too bad. So Tom, I've gone ahead and drilled out the back plate. I found these nice stainless steel hex bolts to fit in there. I'll put washers on them as well. I just want to put them on now just to hold it in place. So that'd be the spacing of the mudguard on the wheel. Thinking about whether to trim this plate down a bit more now. So I've got this big sharp edge sticking out the bottom here. I might trim it so it goes underneath and round. And I'll probably go ahead and do the same on this side now. So Jeremy, we've got both our brackets on. Mad Max style. So I'm going to get ready now to fit the mudguard in question. Do you like the fitment of it? You could do a nice X-Men style fancy dress costume with one of these if you fancied. So let's go ahead and pop this on and see how we're looking. Well, Eric, I've gone ahead and just cut it with a jigsaw, and I just used a normal file and just filed off around the edges. I don't know if you can actually see that in the light correctly. Let's go under here. Yeah, so that's just my rounded off overhang parts now. Quite happy the way they've turned out. Well, Graham, that's it. It's finished. It's all bolted up. I've used some nylon thread lock bolts on the inside with washers. It's all bolted up tight. It's not going anywhere. It's really rigid. I think it's got a nice spacing over the wheel. My twin mudguard universal setup. Quite happy with that. I quite like it. I like the look of it. I'm going to leave that one on for the time being. I've measured the movement on the shock absorber, which is about 6 inches max. It will never bottom out completely. And I've got enough space in that gap for clearance. So this mudguard should never bottom out on that one. You've really got to bottom out the shock absorber for that to get anywhere near that, which it will never do. I'm going to leave that one on there for now. This will give me the option now is, these lights work, but they're not great. My next plan is to go ahead and get a 7-inch LED headlight. Then I can remove that mudguard, which is part of the purpose of doing this as well. And then I can work out a way to mount a 7-inch headlight there. I've had some ideas. Obviously, once I remove these headlights, I've got the fixing bracket there. So I could do like I did, what I didn't do back there. And probably make some little brackets just to bring the headlight maybe lower. I'd like to use, you need to really keep this because you've got all the wiring behind that lot. But that's another project for another day. So I'd like to think I've fixed something today that didn't need fixing again. So that's another tick in my book. I'm really happy with the outlook. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. I like the road mudguard look of it on this bike now. I may go ahead and get you can get like a fender extender that goes on the back of that. So I may go ahead and get that because I still don't think it's gonna stop it completely, but I think that looks nice. All I did with the brake hoses and cable, ABS cable, I just drilled a small hole for now, and I've just put a simple cable tie on it just to hold it. I'll probably go ahead. It's got a rubber grommet type thing on there, so it shouldn't affect it anyway. So it's part of the fixed part of the bike. I was going to mount it to the shock absorber, which would have been a bad idea because when it goes up and down, obviously they would have. But it's fixed part of the bike, that, so the gap should always remain the same there, hopefully, because it's on the bottom part where the brake part is. Comments below, thumbs up please. Subscribe, like, the usual rubbish. Thanks for watching.